Hopefully this will have a purifying effect and will distance the foundation from the events that happened 10 years ago.
New Orleans trumpeter Irvin Mayfield is sentenced to prison for taking more than $1 million meant for the Public Library Foundation. Good evening, I'm Karen Swenson.
And I'm Sharice Gibson. 18 months plus restitution. That's the sentence for Mayfield and his associate, Ronald Markham.
Investigative reporter David Hammer uncovered Mayfield's crime back in 2015 with the money spent on things like luxury trips and a gold-plated trumpet.
Irvin Mayfield asked Judge Jay Zaney for leniency by apologizing for hurting the Library Foundation, his friends, his family, and his city. He said he had a dream to help the libraries, but he said, "My dream was wrapped in ego, supported by awards and accolades. Perceived success is temporary. A win without knowing how you win is a superficial win. I allowed my ego to focus on winning by any means necessary." He told Zaney he'd already suffered, saying, "The disadvantaged position I'm in is probably the worst punishment of all." Zaney shot back, "Why didn't you think of this when you were breaking the law?" Mayfield responded, "The ego, thinking success is the win and thinking in terms of wins and losses." Mayfield continued, "My position is I botched the whole process and I did a terrible job." Zaney, "A terrible job or a criminal act, there's a difference." Mayfield, "A terrible job and a criminal act." While Mayfield and Markham were contrite, Mayfield's public defender, Claude Kelly, was defiant. He kicked off his statement in Mayfield's defense by attacking me for about 10 minutes. He said I was obsessed with the story and said Mayfield had already been punished, starting with what he called the first Hammer story on May 5th, 2015. But Zaney interjected, "Everybody else is to blame for what Mr. Mayfield did. The man stole $1.3 million from a wonderful foundation. Say what you want to say. Mr. Hammer did not cause the conduct that occurred." Kelly then cast the prosecution of Mayfield as racially motivated. In the end, Zaney said he felt both defendants deserved more than the maximum sentence of 5 years in prison, but more prison time would not help them make more than $1.1 million in restitution. They have to start paying $500 a month in the next 60 days, then report to prison by January 5th.
The impact of the crimes that he and his co-defendant perpetrated are still being felt today by both organizations. The third organization, the Youth Rescue Initiative, it doesn't exist anymore.
Its only responsibility is that to support the New Orleans public libraries. It's not been able to do so as a result of these events at hand because it's damaged reputation as a result of events over which the present members have had no responsibility whatsoever.
All right, and David joins us live now from the federal courthouse. David, there were 34 letters of support written on behalf of Mayfield. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, we heard from a number of people. Actually, former police chief Eddie Compass actually got up in the court and pled for leniency for his friend, who he said he mentored along the way after meeting him as a child, and said that, you know, he could do more for the community not being in prison, that even though he was a former chief of police and pushes for strong sentences for criminals, that he didn't think that it was appropriate in this case. We also said they got letters of support from musicians like Kermit Ruffins and Cyril Neville, and also Wynton Marsalis, who brought Mayfield into his house in New York after Katrina. But again, it's interesting because we were here 4 years ago, you and I, talking about the indictment, so this took a long time, and we heard about $500 a month to pay $1.1 million in restitution. That would take 183 years at that rate to pay all the money back to the Library Foundation. Reporting live from the federal courthouse, David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
All right, David, thank you very much.